So we're developing heart on a chip to essentially mimic the architecture and function of the cardiac muscle in an in vitro system and hopefully line it with human cells, so we have a human mimic of a heart on a chip. And the basic applications are to be able to test drugs in a more relevant fashion than animal testing. So sort of replace animal testing to collect human relevant readouts of, let's say, function and toxicity and pathophysiology. That's sort of the killer app for this platform, but then you could essentially think about doing personalized testing. So you could, if you could get access to a patient's cells and using stem cell technology recreate their heart on the chip, you could test for patient-specific therapies on an in vitro platform before administrating it to the patient. You could also think about modeling cardiac diseases on a chip and studying mechanisms of the cardiac disease in a dish in a human relevant fashion. So for each of the applications, the timelines differ. For replacing animal testing or bringing this into the pipeline of pharmaceutical companies to test drugs, I anticipate a much longer timeline, mostly because regulatory authorities move very, very slowly, and for good reason, because they want you to validate these platforms. So I would say 15 to 20 years for replacing or making a change in drug testing platform. For doing mechanistic studies, we're already doing that. So we published in Nature Medicine already last year new mechanisms for a rare cardiac disorder called Barth syndrome. So those are very academic style studies. So I would say the platform's ready and good to go if you want to look into mechanisms. For developing patient-specific therapies on a chip, that again depends on the kind of diseases you're looking at. So we looked at very rare disorders where there are no drugs in the market. So you could essentially move much quicker in those areas. But if you were looking at traditional diseases like dilated cardiomyopathy, I would anticipate a longer timeline. Talk to more engineers, make friends in academia, just take a look around them and see what we're doing. Find a way to collaborate, because at the end of the day, we're all trying to help the patient. The two things which we could use from them is access to clinical patients and their cells and the biology. And second is validation. Is what we are developing helpful to them? Is what we develop something they could use one day in the clinic? And those kinds of two inputs are very critical, and we would love their input on those kinds of things. So it would help us a lot if clinicians essentially talk to more engineers.